Welcome to our webinar for the top 5 ways to minimize downtime. My name is Derek Kostelnik. I am the practice leader of solution support at Grantek, and I'll be leading you through this webinar this afternoon. So let's get right into it. So first, just a couple guidelines and tips. Again, I would like to make this somewhat interactive with all of you. So I appreciate you get distracted and maybe answer the polls and questions that we have. And participate as much as you can. As always, if there's useful information, very happy if you guys were to take notes and potentially get some good takeaways from here. I hope you do. I hope we're going to be sharing some wonderful information and that everyone gets value out of this. Use the chat. We'll be monitoring it, periodically, seeing if there's any questions that come up. And like I said, I'd love it if this is more interactive instead of me just speaking the whole time. And as mentioned, answer the polls. We've got 2 polls for you guys to get some information on and see how you're doing, and we'll go from there. So our agenda for what we're covering today is we'll start off with introductions, where I'll get to introduce myself to all of you, talk about manufacturing support, why we're here, why we're supporting manufacturing, what we've seen as the current state of support across the industry. And then get right into, hey, what we see are the top 5 ways to minimize downtime. Then I'd like to introduce you to how we support our solutions, how Grantek does it, kind of a comparison for what maybe you've seen out there or what other people can do, and then do a recap and Q&A. So let's start off with introductions. So my name is Derek Kostelnik. As I mentioned, I'm the practice leader at Solution Support at Grantek. Been at Grantek over 20 years, 20 years in the automation industry, doing, when I started at Grantek, we were doing kind of support as a side of desk job. And we kind of realized, this is not how our clients expect it. They need a dedicated support team. So in 2018, we led an initiative to start our very own support team, dedicated individuals to help all of our customers keep manufacturing going 24/7. And we're building that team, and I've been very happy to lead it. And again, had lots of great learnings from what what I was doing back in the day to what our team's doing now, and happy to share that with you and keep everything running. So before we get in, let's do our first poll. And I'm just curious, how many of you have a support contract with your vendors, or whether automation vendors, maybe some of your software vendors. Just curious to see how many of you have already down this journey with some of your suppliers, or are you kind of just getting right into it? And looking at the results, and it seems the majority of you are kind of just starting that journey, and about roughly a third of you have already begun. So that's great to hear. And again, for those of you just starting it out, again, hopefully it's provided a lot of wonderful information for you to be able to make some informed decisions and go forward. So let's kind of review where manufacturing support, or why we're doing manufacturing support in the first place. So I think it's pretty obvious, but again, I want to just highlight it because it's a tone of why we're doing all these things. We want to minimize it to figure out kind of what our goals are. But again, obviously through manufacturing, that's where you're producing all your goods. It's driving the revenue. It's driving goodwill for your customers. Maybe producing food products, medicines to save lives, whatever it is. Obviously, you're trying to manufacture everything as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So why do we need support for these things? Well, obviously things break. Things don't always go as planned. And so ideally, you want to keep everything running. You want to minimize that downtime. And basically that means if you're not down, you're producing, so you want to maximize that output. And for all the procurement folks out there, obviously that helps maximize the dollars that you're able to produce. So again, it's very critical to keep everything running and focus on supporting manufacturing throughout your whole process. For when you're putting a brand new line or still supporting something that's put in 20 years ago, you obviously want to keep it running, get the most out of that investment, and keep going. Who does the support of manufacturing? Well, we found that basically there's 2 core teams. Number one are your kind of maintenance teams that are obviously automation professionals, your electricians, your mechanics. They're fixing these machines, keeping everything running. But that's not just them. What we've seen is now with the technology moving forward, there are more smart devices, there are more switches and servers and PCs. And a lot of times it's also your IT folks that are also supporting the manufacturing side. And what do they do it? Well, there's break fix. Something breaks, you react to it, you fix it, you get you back up and running, as well as you hopefully have some preventive maintenance plans, making sure that everything that is running, you're tuning it, tweaking it, freeing up space on the servers to make sure they don't run out of space to record all important information, and just to make sure that you minimize the downtime as best as you can. But what are we seeing in the current state, knowing that we're doing all this and these things are all important? Well, what we're seeing nowadays, there's a lot of workforce challenges due to high turnover. Folks may be leaving the industry. We're seeing kind of an aging population out there. Some people are just leaving due to retirement, and so there's less and less folks left around to support. If you try to hire some automation specialists lately, you'll discover that it's not that easy anymore. Everyone's fighting for those same smart and capable individuals, and it's harder and harder to find and hire those folks to help everything keep running. And lastly, we're seeing that there's lots of struggles because the technology is moving forward so much, and the tech that's in putting in plants right now is completely different than what was there 20 years ago. And so the folks that had their methodologies and had their tools that worked 20 years ago may no longer work today. So there's all these things just cause a lot of frustration, both on the actual core contributor side, on the people actually trying to solve the downtime, to the teams managing the maintenance teams, trying to schedule everything, keep everything running. And what we're seeing on the system side, again, there's a mix of new and old systems. Obviously, no one wants to throw away working systems, so you've got a plethora of things that are out there that maybe new things that were put in this year to things that were put in there 20 years ago. Note that some of those things put in 20 years ago maybe are obsolete. Definitely different technologies from what's being put in there now. So again, all these things are providing a lot of challenges to everyone trying to keep everything running and minimize that downtime. So, well, how do we do it? Again, I've been working with the team for many years, trying to put down or analyze kind of the information that we've been getting for where our service calls are coming from, what can we do better, how can we guide our customers to minimize the downtime, and what's worked and what hasn't. And actually came up with a very neat mnemonic to kind of help your team succeed, improve the efficiency, and ultimately minimize that downtime. And that's abide. So just abide by these simple steps, and we believe you will be able to minimize your downtime. So we've got A, for auditing your systems, B, for backing up what you can, I, for investing in your team, D, for documentation, and E, for that extra or extended support for your teams. So let's get right into it. Auditing your systems. So what we found with a lot of our customers, over the years, there's constantly changes being made, items are being put in, new systems are being deployed, and not only that, there's a lot more kind of smart devices being put in into the plant floor. And we find that many customers don't have a managed list of PLCs or HMI. So maybe per project, they have some binders, some folders, but really, just not a lot of customers have that managed list. Maybe they'll have, there's that filler over there, that oven over there, that palletizer here, and can have some idea, but not really going in down to the detail that I think is necessary nowadays to properly minimize that downtime. Because a lot of these smarter devices have custom configurations. So when that device fails and you're replacing it, 20 years ago, maybe it was or 40 years ago, a relay-based system. You take a look at the part number, you swap it out, you're back up and running, you're good to go. That is not always true today. Again, with many smart devices, for example, like a VFD, they can have tens, if not hundreds, of configurable parameters. More than just the nameplate info. They could have acceleration curves. They could have different alarm settings, different speed settings that are critical to the operation of your equipment. So when that VFD fails, it's not good enough anymore to just look at that part number, try to find a replacement, put it in. You need to have a backup of that configuration somewhere. So not knowing that you've got these smart VFDs deployed in the field, and assuming that, hey, just because you kind of know that there's something there, but not knowing that there's this information that comes along with it, can be detrimental to getting you back up and running. PID controllers, loop settings. These are not things that are easy to kind of derive. You do want to have these backed up somewhere. And again, and knowing where these are, whether they're in the PLC, whether they're standalone devices, is kind of critical to knowing what you got to support. And last but not least, many smart instruments out there, calibrated instruments that have maybe alarm settings, have scaling settings, all these things again, where if you swap it out and you're not using defaults, would be trouble for you. So again, auditing is really the key to making sure exactly what you have in the field. Not down to maybe the fuel level. Don't need to go that far, but any kind of smart devices, you should have a log of what's there. And not only that, but also things like IP addresses and node settings like that for any networks you have out there. What we're also finding is that as things kind of get more complicated, sometimes you actually do need to track things down to the hardware or firmware revision level. We did find that in some cases, a drive failed and you swapped it out with something with a newer hardware, newer firmware. Well, that had some added features, it had some added parameters, and it didn't work the same as the old model did. So, a 5 horsepower VFD is not the same as every other 5 horsepower VFD. The other part about auditing your system, this is one of the best times to do a risk assessment. Once you have an audit of everything that you have, great to kind of go through and see, what items are obsolete, what items are still modern, and that will kind of guide you as to, hey, which systems, if they fail, are probably going to cause you the most heartache, especially if you don't have any spares handy. So again, key takeaway, it's easy to overlook things and not protect what you don't know you have. So starting with an audit is key. So once you've done an audit and you know what you have, on your plant floor, next step is backing it up. And again, we highly recommend, periodic backups, whether it's monthly or quarterly, worst case annually. You kind of have to judge how often things change, but having good backups is absolutely critical, because the easiest way to recover from downtime, if something fails, you put a spare in, you put your backup in, you're off to the races. What we've seen, one of the critical things is that, or mistakes people make, is that maintenance laptops are not backups. Those do fail. Things get deleted. The guy may have a backup on his laptop that he takes home with him, and you're down next shift, and no one can find that backup, and no one knows where it is. So again, highly critical that once you know what you have, you back it up. Again, that's those VFD parameters, those PID controllers, your PLCs, your HMIs. Again, this is great to involve your IT departments for a lot of your HMIs. If they're PC based or servers, grab images of those systems. Again, if it fails, you don't want to be there ticking around trying to figure out how to reconfigure it back to the same state it was. If you can just restore it back up, that's the easiest way to get back up and running. One thing I note, what we're seeing starting to get deployed a lot more for backups, again, just because it's easy and almost everyone has it, is Microsoft SharePoint. It kind of has built-in version control in there, so that if you overwrite a backup, you kind of realize, oops, that was a mistake, that was that has some errors, or that's some work in progress, and it's not actually deployed in the field. It's easy to kind of go back. So again, very simple tool that I think most of you probably already have deployed. And again, if you got nothing, I would definitely start there to make sure you do have a backup of all kind of those critical systems. Again, there are some third-party tools, namely like Octoplant. Again, that's a kind of third-party tool for you to store backups. If you want to get maybe a little bit fancier, because again, it's got version control and it's made just for automation. As well as there are many vendor tools that do this. Notable one is like FactoryTalk Asset Center. Where it's got not only version control, but it's also got verification features where you can schedule and have the system take a look to say, hey, I'm going to do a nightly upload from every system compared to what's in the backup. Make sure it didn't get corrupted, program didn't get lost, and it can email alerts and kind of highlight things that, hey, some welders were working down by line 7. Hey, they send a surge up the power, and we lost that system, and you probably get the notification before production lets you know that things are down. So. And again, then you just go to Asset Center, get that backup, deploy it, and you back up and running. So again, very critical that you back up. And again, key takeaway, depends how frequently you're changing items, but always do backups when you make changes, making sure that whenever, because you never know when something's going wrong, that you're able to deploy that backup and make sure you get back to the same state you were before the failure happened. Third point, again, these IT guys or these maintenance folks that are out on the plant floor trying to keep everything running. You got to invest in that team. They're probably out there supporting multiple technology stacks, multiple systems. For your onboarding new folks, you got to make sure they know exactly what your plant floor has, what the network topologies are, what systems they have, and get them trained on those systems. And, this could be internal training, internal notes that you guys have, as well as there are some great options, obviously from the automation vendors like your Rockwells, your Siemens, your Schneiders, potentially maybe some of your OEM specific, kind of application training for whatever that, how that filler works and how to maintain it, what the PMs are on it. Again, make sure you guys go through that training. You hire, you onboard new folks, reach out to the EM and figure out, hey, can I, rerun that class? Or, is there a video that you could get that you can just run through your new folks to make sure you're kind of arming them with all the information that they need to be able to keep everything running. And, along with that information, also don't forget the right tools for the job. This includes, making sure they have, laptops to be kind of, out on the floor, being able to plug into these panels, or computers or whatever it is, the right cables. Again, we've been asked many times just for help because they had, an OEM machine with some, not so common VFD, not a big deal to get it, but they just didn't have the cable to even connect to it. So, make sure your teams have all the appropriate cables. And then lastly, the software. Again, it used to be that you had one version of software, you're good to go. But because we're seeing such a diversification of the technologies out on the plant floor, you got to make sure that your teams have all the right software to do the job. Likely you buy a new machine, it comes in, it's probably latest firmware, which means that whatever you have on your maintenance laptop probably will not be able to support it. So you got to make sure you keep that up to date. And the other thing I'll highlight here on the software, because again, it's getting more difficult to manage from a kind of traditional standpoint where, maybe I have a Siemens laptop, I've got a Rockwell laptop that's got everything configured. If you were to do that for every technology stack you have in there, have your maintenance guys walking around with 10 laptops, that just doesn't make sense anymore. So you probably want to leverage something like a VMware, where you can have virtual workstations that are pre-configured. You could have one configured for HMI, troubleshooting development, one configured for, let's say, older PLC types, one configured for newer PLC types that you can, manage and deploy. And again, there are lots of great tools on that side, just to make sure that your maintenance teams have the right software to do the job. Because again, they don't write the software, they can't dig into those systems, and they can't figure it out. And that means, that it takes them longer to get back up and running. And again, that all means more downtime. Obviously, you mentioned that there could be obsolete equipment out there. So, make sure you've got kind of spares for what your critical equipment is. And one thing we note is again, with the pandemic, and we had all these supply chain disruptions, kind of knowing what are long lead hardware items. Hey, maybe you can get input cards and output cards in your PLC racks, in a very quick turnaround. But hey, that 20 horsepower VFD that's running your critical blending system, that everything goes through it, and it's a critical point of failure. Maybe that's a 2-month lead time, or we saw a couple of years ago, 6-month lead time. So you guys have to kind of with that risk assessment, kind of realize, hey, what spares should we keep to make sure that we can keep everything running. And the last one, and again, this one's kind of forgotten a little bit, but just defining those responsibilities. Knowing what is maintained by your maintenance team, what is maintained by your IT team. For example, servers typically stay in the IT space, but we've seen our customers kind of vary between who does simpler things like just restoring PC images for a lot of your HMIs. Is that IT? Is that maintenance? If it's maintenance, are they trained to use those tools? Do they have licenses? Do they have that to do their job? And if not, is it IT? Does IT know it? We've gotten to cases where IT going as well. That's a vendor system, and that's an automation system. They may not be too comfortable digging in that space. So just hiding or just figuring that out with your teams again is critical. So everyone kind of knows, hey, if this fails, I know, I got to escalate to this person or that department to make sure that these things are resolved as quickly as possible. And then you have some of your teams, just again being frustrated, kind of going, hey, I don't know if this is my role or not my role. Am I doing this right? May not have the tools, and just again frustration, and it all just leads to downtime. So again, key takeaway is invest in your team, set them up for success, because that will pay dividends and be beneficial to your operations. And then documentation. So it's great. You've recorded what you have. You've backed it up. You've invested in your team. But there's another part to that if they're troubleshooting it, maybe they have the right tools, they will need that documentation to help them out. A lot of OEMs provide great documentation that tells you, hey, here's an alarm list. This is what you do when these alarms happen. But who knows where that stuff is? I've many customers that say, yeah, we got it somewhere. That's in a binder somewhere, and no one can find it. And what we've been really telling our customers, get whatever backups, whatever documentation you have, digitize it, keep it with your backups of your software and your PLCs, so that your maintenance teams, your IT teams know exactly where to look for it. Again, if you're using SharePoint, set up a SharePoint site for, hey, that's this oven. Here's all the documentation for it, your drawings, your manuals, your kind of vendor documentation, your backups, your images, and everything else. Again, if your teams are trying to troubleshoot something, give them that documentation. Again, this is to me almost one of the tools they need to have to make sure that they can do their job as efficiently and as quickly as possible. And again, documentation is a great, like some of those things, some of those items, those VFD parameters or PID loop tuners, potentially you could have them just stored in your documentation. Again, leave that to you for what you think is kind of best for your business. But again, don't forget about documentation. Again, it's critical for your teams to be able to kind of troubleshoot and go through your systems. And again, they have the tools, they have the documentation. Then I've seen the teams that are the most prepared can basically help everything stay running and not really again to get frustrated as much or not having lengthy downtimes that we've seen with teams that don't necessarily have documentation, or if they have it, they can't find it. Or can't find backups or can't find the tools. Again, key takeaway, this can be the huge or the difference between making huge mistakes or having a smooth process. If oh yeah, it's that alarm, go look at this. That's probably caused by this compressor failing. You can point your team right to look at the equipment that they need to look at, troubleshoot it quickly, replace it, fix it, whatever it is, and get you back up and running. And then lastly, extended support. Great, you set up all your teams. They're kind of your frontline support. They help you get back up and running. But we find for whatever reason, people are kind of afraid to ask for help, afraid to go out, outside of their internal team. And I would say don't be afraid to ask for help, because this can alleviate a lot of the frustration your teams have. And again, with extended support, there are many options for this. Many vendor options. You can have whether it's like I said through your OMI support or through vendor support like Inductive Basic Care, Siemens Technical Service Agreements, or even Factory Talk Tech Connect. A lot of the vendor packages provide things like updates to your software. So again, you want to make sure your PLC software is up to date, or that you've got the latest design software, so you can open up that HMI backup and try to figure out what's going on. As well as they have support offerings, as well as various integrators, system integrators like ourselves. Again, may have support contracts for the systems that they help put in and help integrate with, or maybe even help for systems that they weren't involved with, but usually they if they're local to your site, they can probably help out and get you back up and running without you having to try to fly someone in from where from an OEM from Europe or Asia or wherever you may be getting or sourcing your equipment from, to get you to help out. Again, too many times I've seen teams that have been sort of frustrated trying to fix something for 8 to 12 hours, lots of downtime, plants getting upset because things aren't running, and if they just place the call to let's say Factory Talk Tech support, they're going to realize, oh yeah, there's, if you came across this condition, this can happen. This is a cause for it. Do these 3 steps to get you back up and running, and that would have solved it how much easier and relieve that frustration. But again, key takeaway for me is there's no shame asking for help. Have maybe define kind of escalation plan with your team to say, hey, after 4 hours they can't figure it out, escalate it up, seek for help, whether that's within your own teams. If you are a customer multi-site deployment, reach out to maybe your other sites and see if they've come across those issues. Again, no shame in asking for help. So again, having gone through that, figured a great chance to ask you guys another poll question. I know some of you are kind of just starting out in support, but for those of you who aren't, just curious, how many contracts do you currently manage? Just seeing if you've got some of these vendor options or system integrator options out there in play, and just taking a look. Okay, a fair number of you are in the 1 to 2 categories. I guess you got to focus your support to 1 or 2 suppliers. Great to see. And I don't see anyone in 5+. So I guess you all kind of figured out how to kind of make most efficient use. Again, we've seen some customers that have a plethora of contracts, and they have kind of like a decision tree has to figure out where it goes. But good to see that you guys have things figured out. So okay, so I've talked a lot about how to minimize downtime, and I figured, hey, why not share with you what we do at Grantek to give you an idea of what an integrator can do for you, and maybe compare us to what's out there. And if they feedback for me to say, hey, we wish you guys could do this, I'd love to get that feedback, or maybe take it away and maybe find out that hey, your vendor or your integrator can do these things as well, and again, just arm you with that information. So as I mentioned, Grantek has a highly skilled workforce covering 24/7 of dedicated individuals for support. We're lucky enough to be a larger system integrator, so our support team can also escalate and reach out to over 100 designers and engineers. So we've got SMEs for most categories of technologies out there to help us make sure that our customers are well supported. Again, we have various support offerings for our customers, kind of make sure it's the kind of right size, right fit for whatever they need, and doing support for hundreds of production lines across multiple customers and sites, including things like label verification lines, fillers, packaging lines, and so on. So again, we're quite experienced in it, and happy to help our customers. In terms of offerings, we kind of got 4 main pillars of support. One is embedded support for customers that need a dedicated hand, whether that's have their teams kind of going away on vacation, need that extra help on site, to our extended support or remote support tier, to having a preventive maintenance team that comes in, does audits, does health checks, does some obsolescence planning, some cybersecurity and obsolescence, application patching for our customers, as well as our 4th pillar of kind of higher level support initiatives of looking holistically at systems, coming up with continuous improvement plans, helping with budgeting, change control, or change management and quality control to help our teams out. In terms of our extended support, we've got 3 different tiers that we provide our extended support to our customers for kind of break fix. So we've got our gold, silver, and bronze tier. In a bronze support tier, it's meant for kind of business hours only, for systems that aren't necessarily as critical. Typically, this is done for a lot of reporting systems where if it goes down, it's not causing downtime, but you still want to have it, have someone take a look to make sure it gets back up and running. And again, we can do investigations and preventive maintenance to help you resolve that issue. Then our silver professional support tier, where we are providing true 24/7 support, and improved response time over our gold tier. But again, mainly break fix support, some preventive maintenance, investigations to help our customers get back up and running. And last but not least, our gold or mission critical support. So this is our kind of a highest tier of support. With our fastest response time, our teams are targeting a sub 2 hour, and typically we're averaging sub 1 hour response to from the time you place the call to when we're working on your issue and get you back up and running, as well as provide some reporting and analytics with this tier. So not only you kind of get reports of what's happened, but also our teams kind of dig into that data, dig into all the service calls to highlight trends and weaknesses, and come up with recommendations and say, hey, you know what? Over the last 3 months, we've seen an uptick in downtime on filler 7. Mostly due to hardware failure on its VFD. We're recommending that maybe that VFD needs to be replaced, because obviously it's your number one source of downtime for that machine. And let's leave the last thing we want you guys to have a repeat and have that be a chronic issue. Let's get it fixed. Let's get it corrected. In terms of our workflow, it's fairly straightforward. Again, you can either contact us through email or through phone support. The phone support goes through a non-technical dispatcher. They'll kind of get the information for what's going on, and from that have a list of who from our team is dedicated to you, knows your system, and is available to help out. Reaches that support individual, creates a ticket with that base information, and then that specialist is assigned to help you out. They may reach out back to you with feedback or questions to try to get the results as quickly as possible. If they're hitting some roadblocks, they may escalate to our wider team, again, and pull in additional resources as needed, work towards that resolution, and get you a report of our findings and our resolution. And again, with our silver and gold tiers, you're going to get that advanced analytics and reporting. So again, just to kind of recap of everything we did to kind of help minimize downtime. Again, just abide by these steps. Again, audit your systems. Again, you can't support what you don't know is there. Back up what you can, because that's your best way to get you back up and running. If anything fails, your PLC program is lost. Making sure you have that relevant backup can help you back up and running. The last thing you want to do is searching through disks or backups or emailing folks to get yourself back up and running. Investing in your teams, making sure they've got the right tools and right features to be able to use those backups, troubleshoot those issues, and get you running. Again, documentation is king. Making sure you've got all those manuals and everything else to kind of help your teams know what's out there and support you can. And then again, getting that extra support from wherever you need it. Whether it's vendors or OEMs, again, no shame in asking for help. And that concludes the presentation. I hope you all enjoy that, and kind of opening up the floor up to questions, and trying to see what we've got out there. Okay, I see one question come in. The question is, are there any tools that you would recommend for our maintenance teams for this? So obviously, there's probably two things I would recommend. Number one is, again, it's maybe working with your IT team or working with maybe your engineering team. But what we found is that a lot of times our maintenance teams, when they're troubleshooting something, they're probably off in the mechanical space, you're up by a panel, and they don't always have good access to the equipment itself. So having a kind of remote access tool, again, whatever. Again, this is why I say leverage your IT team, because they'll figure out what's kind of meets your cybersecurity policies. It could be something simple as Windows RDP, but again, there are many other options out there. It's hard to pick just one. Again, you got to work with your IT team to see maybe they've already got something or they recommend something. But again, number one tool I recommend is if your maintenance teams are able to be in front of the panel or be in front of where the equipment is and the electronics are, but also have access to the HMI. It gives them that visibility as to seeing the alarms, seeing what's going on, having an overview of that system, and as they're troubleshooting, kind of seeing in real time how it's affecting everything. Knowing kind of if it's safe to do so, or are they getting far? And I find that's a lot better than just them having their laptop and their tool. The other one I would actually recommend, we've been doing actually a pilot for this at some of our customer sites, getting some great feedback, but having a smart glasses for your team. So we actually were doing a pilot with RealWear's Navigator smart glasses. So basically, it's a headset that your maintenance teams can put on. It's the real world one is actually ruggedized and works well in a manufacturing environment, and it has a camera and a little screen on a little arm that sits in front, and then your teams can kind of reach out for support through something as simple as Microsoft Teams app that you can install on the glasses, so you can easily go call maybe a SME, a subject matter expert that maybe is not around, or maybe it's another site, or whether they're calling a vendor for support. It lets them work hands-free, kind of show what's going on, and then they can kind of work collaboratively on that system to help troubleshoot and again get everything resolved as quickly as possible. And the fact that it's just because it's just Teams call, it's easy to jump in, easy for the other person to see what's going on. And like I said, it's hands-free, so your team on the floor can still work on whatever issue they're going on, and have someone see exactly what's there and kind of guide them, or even do things like pull up documentation. Just wondering if there are any questions. Okay, another great question. So it's asked what we have seen as the biggest cause of downtime across the systems that we're supporting, and I would say obsolete hardware failure is, if I had to name one, that's definitely it. There's too many times where we've seen teams where they basically kind of run to failure with an obsolete piece of equipment, and you kind of don't find out till it's too late, because no one's done a risk assessment, kind of figured out what it is, didn't have adequate spares, that part fails, and then it's a struggle to get a replacement. We have helping our customers kind of scour eBay to try to get a working part, and that typically means you're not getting it same day, you're getting it days later, and even if you can come up with some creative solution to put something else in its place, whenever it's not a like for like replacement, it typically results in much longer downtime period. So I'd say definitely do that risk assessment, highlight what some of your kind of most either longest lead or hardest to replace items were, and kind of things do eventually fail, and you'll be aware of that. And when I'll add, because I know we just did this recently for a customer, they still had an old 1336 VFD that failed. It was a kind of higher horsepower VFD, and we swapped them to a PowerFlex drive, which we did for them, kind of modern drive, but the wiring had to change. So again, we had to pull in some teams and do the modify the PLC code, modify the wiring, get it going, because it wasn't again a one-to-one replacement. Whereas if that was done, kind of scheduled ahead of time, it would have been a lot easier. Or even if it was prepped kind of ahead of time, again, the customer could have saved a lot of downtime. Okay, just looking for other questions. Okay, yeah, I do see another question. Oh, that's a good one. Are there any AI tools that we should be considering? And that's a great one. AI is all over the news. We have our customers, obviously looking out and kind of seeing all these things. And I'd say, so far, there are some pretty neat tools that have some machine learning out there. Things like factory talk analytics. There are, I believe it's Execute. I think it's Schneider's Execute, but I would say there isn't. I think we're kind of on the cusp of that. There isn't one. I think you see stories of like, hey, I can take a phone or take a picture of my phone of my fridge. Ask ChatGPT and say, hey, what kind of food can I make with the items you see in this picture? I'm thinking we're not there yet, but I do think we're going to be at a point now, or point somewhere in the future where your maintenance teams can just take a picture of a panel and say, hey, this machine's not working. Can you guide me through to to what to look for, or what you see as troubling items to help me diagnose? We're not there yet. But I will say again, if your IT teams or policies allow it, I'd say right now, ChatGPT is probably one of the the better tools out there because it's easy to use. I guess any kind of AI chatbot for now is maybe a good resource for your teams to leverage because again, take it with a grain of salt. It won't beat experience and won't beat some of the tools. And if you've done your documentation and the tools, probably may not need it. But something that if your teams are stuck, you can always kind of ask and give them guidance. I did a trial recently and say, hey, if a VFD failed, what would you do? And it came out with a pretty decent list. But again, not a replacement yet for our maintenance teams who are working hard and getting everything fixed and getting it back up and running. Okay, so I think that was the last question. So again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for listening to this webinar. I really hope provided some great insights for you and some value for you to minimize downtime and some things for you to take away, to your sites and figure out how some of these things maybe can make things better for you. Again, any of you that were registered for this webinar, you will be getting a recording of the session. And if there's any other questions that you may have, feel free to reach out to us at info@grantek.com. We'd be happy to help. And in case of emergency, break glass and call our number on the screen, and we'd be happy to help you out. Okay, everyone. Well, again, thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.